Welcome to Live Oak, Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Drew Carter, a member of the worship ministry, and I will be the worship associate this morning. In this liberal religious community, we welcome all. Our generations join together to nurture spiritual growth and personal transformation, that we may be inspired to transform the world with love, hope, compassion, and justice. Many of us are located on the land of the Chumash peoples. We honor the Chumash and other indigenous caretakers of these lands and waters, the elders who lived here before, the indigenous today, and the generations to come. This morning, we are very fortunate to have two guest speakers, Skyelar Zosinos and Alice Fulmer-Zelinka. Alice is discerning her call to ministry. She is a member of Live Oak and organizes UU young adult groups, and she is a PhD candidate at UCSB in the English department. Skyelar has worked with our congregation and Reverend Jonathan doing a ministerial internship. He's a student at the Cherry Hill Seminary. Welcome. Thank you, Alice and Skyelar. The Reverend Jonathan Young will be back in the pulpit on August 9th for his annual service where he answers your questions, so get those questions in. In Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world, the symbol of the lighted flame in a chalice unites members in worship and symbolizes our faith in action. It represents the warmth of community and the flame of hope. The flaming chalice, like our faith, stands open to receive new truths that pass the tests of reason, justice, and compassion. If you're joining us on Zoom and you have your own chalice, then please join me in lighting this flame, representing our connections to one another. Let us read aloud the chalice lighting words by Petra Samojki, which will be on the screens. May this flame we light remind us that every one of us can bring the light of the love to the world. May this clear flame be a symbol that every heart can burn bright with joy, peace, and harmony. May the wisdom of ages speak to us through this flame and stay in us. Every one of us can be a blessing to the world.
Here we go. For our call to worship, renewal in a weary world. Welcome all who seek renewal in a weary world. Welcome all who come with love and energy to share. Welcome to those who worry for the future. Welcome each one who is grateful for today. Know that in this place you are not alone. In community we share our strength with one another, and we keep the flame of love burning bright. Know that in this place responsibility is shared. Here tradition holds us, ancestors shine a light from the past. Here the young lift their bright faces and beckon us onward. Take my hand, and we can go on together. I want to give a special thanks to Sherry Woodbury, who is a UU who wrote not just the psalm we just sang, Coming Home, but the call to worship as well. Good morning, sheeple. How blessed we are to have so many free thinkers under one roof every Sunday morning. Our most recent ministerial intern, Skyelar, and I have put together a bit of an unconventional service today, organized around personal anecdotes on the god Pan and pagan spirituality broadly. I often think about the first time, what it would have looked like, felt like, sounded like, that my grandfather Stieg read The Wind in the Willows to my mother and her siblings for the first time, known to them as the Swedish translation, Det susa i seven, literally, it, that is the wind, sighs in the rushes. Grandpa Stieg, a woodsman, once had a schnauzer named Pan, I came to find out some years ago. He would take dogs like Pan out hunting with him. I've been told that the central Swedish woods he grew up in were his, quote, church. This resonated very much years later after my formative experiences as a, let me check my notes here, adolescent stoner, dabbling in magic and spirituality in public parks with friends one summer. Pan was our patron during that summer of love. I cherish those times, but I also don't miss the conditions that made for them: deep sorrow, alienation, and angst. That summer did awaken a spark in me, though, which I believe ultimately led me to our UU tradition, which extols justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. When I think about the essence of Pan, the Arcadian god of goats, music, sex, and theatrical criticism, this excerpt from Wind in the Willows, as adapted in this late 80s charming claymation, captures him perfectly to me. He's not the devil or a demon, despite the goat legs. In fact, I believe he was an influence on early Christian iconography and epithets, particularly that of the Good Shepherd. To recap, in the 7th chapter of Scottish author Kenneth Grahame's The Wind in the Willows, the piper at the gates of dawn, our main characters, Rat, Mole, Badger, and Mr. Toad, yes, that Mr. Toad, are frantically helping their neighbor Otter find his son, Portly. The A-plot of this classic children's novel revolves around a community of care helping their manic friend, Mr. Toad, regain his reputation and country estate back, with occasional visits to the more rough and tough Wildwood neighborhood. But this chapter's climax that we saw adapted here focuses on a reclusive part of their English countryside world. And in case you didn't know, it is very English, if you can tell. This island, this silent silver kingdom populated by, quote, hedges, the hollow trees, the runnels, little culvers, the ditches and dry waterways. This this location from the chapter is unique to the main narrative and kind of almost like a purposeful distraction. They're looking for Portly, Otter's son, who has gone missing due to the clamor of hunting dogs, led by huntsmen looking to hunt animals like otters and badgers for game. This Portly we can think of as our inner child, if you will, lost in the woods, uncertain where to go, and perhaps even a bit panicked. Panic shares its Greek roots with, indeed, Pan. Think of panic disorder, episodes of intense anxiety marked by persistent thoughts that this feeling will never pass, and yet even panic attacks do. In its original meaning, panikos or panikondema, I'm not sure if I got the Greek pronunciation right, Skyelar, I'm sure will correct me later, referred to the total fear in the presence of Pan, especially if he's a little pissed off. Traditionally, he really enjoys his noontime naps, so it's a good thing this will be all wrapped up by 11. But this piper at the gates of dawn, the Pan analog in the story, does not make Portly's anxiety worse. In fact, these feelings of panic seem to guide Portly away from danger, not towards it. And we are also Rat and Mole, well-meaning, if but naive adults, looking for our inner child, but maybe not certain of where to look for them or in what place. As UUs, I think we're always looking to help our neighbors and friends as well, just as well as us. I've known many of us here who are eager to help others, and I cannot help but think of certain congregants who have done their utmost to help local community members against the fascist scourge of ICE this year or so. Maybe you can think of them as the hunting dogs. Off the main river's bank now, Rat and Mole head into this unfamiliar part of the forest and look for Portly. And pretty soon, never had they noticed the roses so vivid, the willow herb so riotous, the meadow sweet so odorous and pervading. They are in awe of nature at dawn. And who wouldn't be after being up all night, worried sick about your friend's kid? Despite the circumstances in these moments leading to the climax of the chapter, they're surprisingly mindful, aware of their feelings and their surroundings with an equanimous curiosity. And pretty soon they are face to face with the piper at the gates of dawn, Pan himself, although the author just stops short of saying so. The scene stirred controversy from its initial publication onwards, and in fact, many subsequent editions of the book omitted the chapter because of its scary and pagan elements. Kenneth Grahame, with a bit of a traumatic childhood himself, found solace in the woods of southeast England, raised by his grandmother after the death of his mother and absence of his father. These woods in Berkshire, only about 2 hours west of Ashdown Forest, fun fact, the woods which inspired A.A. Milne to write Winnie the Pooh. Milne was very much inspired by Grahame, and a famous Pan devotee, Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones, would later occupy that summer house that the Milne family lived in during Christopher Robin's childhood. Keep the Rolling Stones in mind in just a few minutes here. I'd like to close my half of the homily with this excerpt and a little bit more explication, and then we'll have the pleasure of hearing from our most recent ministerial intern, Skyelar. In the moments leading up to their rediscovery of Portly, Grahame writes, Rat looked in the very eyes of the friend and helper, saw the backward sweep of the curved horns, gleaming in the growing daylight, saw the stern, hooked nose between the kindly eyes that were looking down on them humorously, while the bearded mouth broke into a half-smile at the corners, saw the rippling muscles in the arm that lay across the broad chest, the long, supple hand still holding the panpipes, only just fallen from the parted lips, saw the splendid curves of the shaggy limbs disposed in majestic ease on the sward, saw, last of all, nestling between his very hooves, sleeping soundly in utter peace and contentment, the little, round, podgy, childish form of the baby otter. All this he saw for one moment, breathless and intense, vivid on the morning sky, and still, as he looked, he lived. And still, as he lived, he wondered. Rat, he found breath to whisper, shaking, are you afraid? Afraid, murmured the rat, his eyes shining with unutterable love. Afraid of him? Oh, never, never. And yet, oh, Mole, I am afraid. Then the two animals crouched into the earth, bowed their heads, and did worship. No matter what you believe about this world, its origins, or where it is heading, there are forces in it beyond human and beyond animal comprehension. And despite what any oil magnates may think, we cannot outsmart nature. The inner child we seek, the neighbor we want to help, is often right in front of us at the foot of an ancient God. With a leap of faith, we can do hard things. We can be present in the moment. We too can be two animals, crouch into the earth, bowed their heads, and did worship in reverence of the earth. And now I'd like to welcome up Skyelar Zosinos to the chancel.
So this is the part where I have to confess that I'm not a big fan of summer. My spouse and I readily joke how we need to flee like seasonal birds to cooler weather. And yet, summer is still a season that invites people to get outdoors, even in spite of the heat wave we all are suffering through right now. We can feel it in the warmth of the sun, in all the insects that chirp at dusk, in all the shady trees that provide solace from this miserable heat. And of course, through wind moving through tall grasses. The earth seems to breathe more deeply, and if we can listen, we can find ourselves breathing alongside with it. Within the context of pagan spirituality, the natural world is never empty. There are mountains, rivers, forests, and fields where you're not just seeing a scenery, but there's life within there, plants and animals, and that is where the divine can be encountered, however it is you define it. And among the gods who remind us of this truth is Pan, the horn god of shepherds, wild places, music, laughter, and untamed life, as Alice told us all about. Pan was never a deity of polished temples or carefully ordered cities. He belongs to those rocky hillsides, hidden caves, forest paths, and quiet pastures. He shows us that there is a holiness beyond our city walls and beyond certainty, and these neat boundaries we try to place around our lives often fall apart. Summer is a season that I strongly associate with Pan in many ways. This is when shepherds would be guiding their flocks through green hills, where people think of joyous music playing late into the night, and when life is just overflowing in abundance. But Pan also teaches us something that can be easy to overlook. The wilderness is beautiful because it is not controlled. Every forest has its falling trees. Every stream will have seasons when it's more dry, and some bend branches and scatter leaves everywhere. But life continues, and new growth will occur in places no one expects to find it. The wild does not promise comfort. Instead, it offers us the lesson of resilience. This is one of the great gifts that Pan offers us, not a life free from hardship, but one that shows us how to live with courage, wisdom, and reverence through every season. Even the gods know struggle, conflict, grief, reconciliation, and change. Pan's myths remind us that this existence is dynamic, that the world is always becoming. So when we face hardship in our own lives, or we suffer through hot summers or you're just too tired to move, you can remember that you have not been abandoned by nature. We can remember that difficulty is part of this fabric of our lives. Our task is not to escape it, but to meet it with dignity, aided by the virtue our traditions encourage. Courage, hospitality, gratitude, respect for nature, one another, and ourselves. This is where community becomes sacred. The ancient Greeks understood that religion was rarely practiced alone. Festivals, sacrifices, songs, shared meals, and processions brought people together before their gods. Worship was not simply about private belief, it was about maintaining relationships with their gods, but more importantly, with their neighbors and the land that sustained everyone. That wisdom still speaks to us today. None of us walk through life without burdens. Some of us carry grief that has not yet found words, which is something I think about as I consider our joys and sorrows from today, considering all the people who suffered in Germany. Some people wrestle with uncertainty. Some are tired in body or spirit. When we gather before our community and our gods, we do not come here because we are perfect. We are human. Communities where burdens become lighter because they are shared. Pan himself offers another unexpected lesson. Though many know him as the god of revelry and rustic celebration, his music still does not deny sorrow. The sound of his pipes echo across valleys where shepherds know the loss of their lambs, solitude away from their towns, and long days of labor. Joy is not the opposite of hardship. It is a companion that helps us endure it. This is why festivals matter. When we sing together, share our food, and laugh beneath an open sky, we don't pretend that life is easy. We are honoring the gifts that still exist despite our hardship, and this gratitude can be considered holy. Every libation or shared meal says thank you, and you are not alone. These simple acts weave relationships that sustain us long after the festival ends. So as we move through this hot summer, Pan invites us to spend time in places where the world still speaks its oldest language, in forests near running water, and the birds that sing before you reach for your phone in the morning. Feel the warmth of stone beneath your hand or that breeze across your face, for those moments are not escapes from life, but a reminder of what life truly is. The wild asks nothing of us except our presence, to be patient, humble, and wonder. It reminds us that we are not separate from nature, but active participants within it. When hardship comes again, and it will, we'll remember these lessons. And we'll remember that every shepherd continues walking after difficult weather, that every field must rest before it bears fruit again, and that Pan's pipes continue to play, not because the suffering has disappeared, but because life itself remains worthy of celebration. So let us honor nature with grateful hearts as we care for our communities and protect the lands that sustain us. And when we hear laughter echoing through the trees or music on the summer wind, we can remember that the sacred is found not only in grand ritual, but in the world itself, in friendship, our shared bread, and quiet reverence in this untamed beauty that Pan has called home. So may Pan bless your journeys through both meadow and wilderness, and may we meet each turning of the seasons with courage, gratitude, and joy. Thank you.